All right, we're back with another hot takes part 2. You guys liked the first one so much, so we're like, let's do a part 2 of our hot takes, and we have some really hot takes today. So let's start.
The first hot take is by Noah_Lord06. He said Luka Doncic will win the MVP next season. That man looking geared for next year.
I think that's not a bad hot take. Luka is in prime position to sort of, he was in MVP contention last year when he was healthy. He was second in the race. And if not for injury this year, maybe he would have placed a little higher than what he did. And if he has a healthy season next year on a Lakers team that is competitive and atop of the West, along with LeBron James, I could definitely see him be in contentions. I don't know if he'll win it because, he does have LeBron on his team. So that's some stuff done there. But I think he'll be a top 5 candidate at the minimum.
I have to agree with this take. I believe Luka will be a top 3 candidate. As the years have gone by, especially these past 2 years, I believe Luka has been pretty underrated, and we just forget how he actually, the player he actually is. Luka is an all-time scorer, playmaker. He can lead a team. He went to the NBA Finals the previous year. And LeBron aging and Luka taking over with the pretty decent supporting cast around him, Luka can get into that top 3 position.
I actually think Luka is my pick next year to win NBA MVP. I actually had him this year to win it all, but obviously due to injury, the crazy trade, obviously didn't qualify. So I think next season he should be the favorite to win it all. Shai's already won it, Jokic has already won it, Giannis has already won it. He's the only top elite player that has yet to win a MVP. And as Noah said, Luka's looking geared, and I think he's going to come out for a revenge season next year.
For our next hot take from _ourmoney_, they state Jaylen Brown will carry Boston next season.
For this one, I'm going to have to disagree because how you define carry, for me, carry is like you're the best player on the team. You're going to carry them full on. And with Boston's expectations, he should carry them to the NBA Finals. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think he has the superstar capability to lead them to the NBA Finals, even though he might be the best player with Jaylen Brown, with Jayson Tatum out. So I'm going to have to disagree with this hot take.
I think this all depends on your definition of carry, because he could carry them to the playoffs. That's definitely a real possibility. Is he going to carry them to an NBA championship? I heavily doubt it. They're missing their superstar, their best player for Boston. You could say he could carry them to a play-in spot or a top 8 seed, and I'll believe you. But I think they're more likely to be a bottom, say, between the 7 to 10 range in the East and be a actual top seed and top contender with Jaylen Brown at the helm and Jayson Tatum out.
I actually will also disagree with this hot take because I have a feeling that Boston will use next season as a retool year. Tatum will most likely be out for the whole season. They're planning on trying to trade KP and Drew Holiday. Obviously, those are 2 all-star caliber players, and if what they're gonna trade them for is to be determined. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jaylen Brown honestly maybe sits out for a lot of the year due to rest injuries, just to get him avoid any serious injuries and possibly wait for the following season when Tatum's back. And maybe, who knows, they could do a San Antonio Spurs what they did when they drafted Tim Duncan and they still had David Robinson. They could do the same thing. You might never know. The next hot take from Lincoln_BUTEYN. They say 2025 SGA is the biggest robbery of an MVP ever.
I'm going to have to disagree with this hot take. Although I don't believe SGA deserved MVP this year, it should have been Jokic, but SGA was a very good close runner-up. There have been other MVP cases previously that have been robbed. For instance, some of them could be Steve Nash over Kobe in 2007, Derrick Rose over LeBron in 2011, so I'm going to have to disagree with this take.
I have to disagree with this. I don't think this was a robbery because both Jokic and Shea had very strong arguments, which is why the race was as close as it was. Shea only won by about 200 votes, which isn't a large margin at all. And like he said, there are other cases where another player was more deserving, which you could argue was a larger robbery. For example, I think Joel Embiid's MVP season, Jokic got robbed. the Jokic's second MVP season, Joel Embiid got robbed. The Derrick Rose LeBron MVP. I think you could go on and on. James Harden's 2018 MVP over LeBron James. Russell Westbrook's MVP in 2017 over James Harden's. You could argue those are bigger robberies because Shea was deserving of the MVP this season, but Jokic also was equally deserving.
I would also have to disagree with this hot take. I feel like to say SGA was the biggest robbery, I feel like it's definitely a little bit overboard, even if you dislike the way Shea plays, because he was a top 1 seed in the West, the tough West as well. He was the leading scorer in the NBA, you know, amazing defense as well. So it's hard to say he was the biggest robbery. Maybe this is a hot take of my own, but I would think back to the 2017 year that Russell Westbrook won MVP. He won MVP as the 6th seed. And the only reason he won was because of the triple-double. So to say that SGA didn't deserve it, I feel like is a little bit overboard.
The next hot take is by Finley Moot. He said the Celtics trade Jayson Tatum this offseason.
I disagree. I don't think there's any real way that they trade Jayson Tatum unless he explicitly requests out of Boston. You know, he has an Achilles injury. I think they're going to do right by him by not trading him. And I don't think there are many teams who... Obviously, there are going to be teams who are interested in Jayson Tatum, who wouldn't be. But a lot of teams might be unwilling to trade any real assets for a guy who had a serious Achilles injury. And if you're Boston, why do you trade him? You'd rather trade Jaylen Brown before him, Chingus Pingus before him, Drew Holiday before him. You'd rather trade the whole team before you trade Jayson Tatum, in my opinion.
I'm going to have to strongly disagree with this take. Jayson Tatum is still a top player in the NBA. He's still in the MVP convos. He took them to the chip. He performed well. He took them to the Western Conference Finals 5 times. Even though he had an Achilles injury, he's the type of player to come back from it, similar to what we saw from Kevin Durant. They don't have enough trade assets. I don't think they can even trade him. I don't think teams have enough trade assets to trade for him.
I would have to disagree with this hot take, but honestly, what they did to Isaiah Thomas, if you know, you know. It wouldn't be the most shocking thing to happen. But of course, I'd disagree. You know, Tatum, I think he's like, 27, 28, middle of his prime. He's going to come back stronger. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense for the Celtics to trade him unless they completely think he won't return to the player he is. But other than that, I just don't think they would trade him.
For our last hot take from Vrab_C, they say prime Joel Embiid over any prime player in the history of the NBA in a 1v1.
This hot take is a very interesting one because there's definitely something you could debate about. Joel Embiid's, obviously, you know, we make fun of him for his, you know, not making the Eastern Conference Finals, you know, the trust the process, his trolling, you know, all his injuries, of course, but fully healthy in his prime. Joel Embiid, 7 foot, he could shoot, play defense, amazing in the post, mid-range. So it's hard to deny that he wouldn't beat anybody you put in front of him. Like, hypothetical, let's say, some people will probably say prime Kyrie. Prime Kyrie against prime Embiid. If Embiid has the ball, Kyrie isn't getting the ball back. And if Kyrie does have the ball, you would think that Embiid has a better chance of getting a stop on Kyrie than Kyrie does getting a stop on Embiid. So it's not a bad take.
This is a fun take. This obviously goes outside the borders of NBA basketball. But I would have to disagree with this, even though prime Embiid, he's a shooter, he got physicality, he's 7 feet tall, he has the post skills. I don't think he will be the best one-on-one player because a man by Kevin Durant exists. He's 7 feet tall, greatest shooter, one of the best shooters of all time, the best scorer of all time. He could go in the paint, got the handles. So that's the only reason I would have to disagree with this take, because Kevin Durant exists.
Yeah, overall, I don't think this is this isn't like a hot take. It's a lukewarm take. You could definitely see the case for Embiid being the best one-on-one player in NBA history. He's tall, he can move his feet, and his game is literally built in ISO. Mid post, low high post, back downs, post touches, short midi, fadeaways, all that stuff. He's really good at face-ups and individual scoring. And his biggest weakness, which is playmaking, you wouldn't see that in one-on-one basketball. And I don't think that's a really hot take, because I'm trying to imagine himself against Michael Jordan. I think he could he probably beat Michael Jordan just based off his size. Or like I said, and KD's probably the only other player who could give him some trouble. Maybe a guy like Shaq, who's super dominant. But other than that, I don't really see a guard or a super skilled player doing that, because he's probably one of the most skilled ISO scorers ever at 7 foot. Alright, and that's all for our part 2 of our hot takes. If you guys liked the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you got any hot takes of your own you'd like us to go over in the next part 3, please drop them in the comments. DM us on Instagram. Let us know any hot takes you guys have.